Internet radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Happy Friday evening, folks. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on, well, we're actually not radio anymore. We're a podcast. I'll be saying that for a few more weeks. We're no longer with Odyssey Radio, as Odyssey Radio was something that the owners felt they needed to shut down for a while. So we are on our own, drifting in the world of radio podcasts or audio podcasts. So you're watching a podcast over on the YouTube channel, which might not look a lot different to a lot of you listeners, because this is where you've always joined us traditionally. If you are watching this show over on Facebook, on any of the channels we broadcast there, or over on Twitter or X, I guess it is now. I know it is now. Or any other place where you're picking up this broadcast, you can chat with us. But the chat room that works the best and where you'll see everything is over on the YouTube channel. So join us over on youtube.com/Scotty Roberts if you're anywhere else and you would like to join in on the chat. Welcome to people of Yo, bruh. Ryan Gale just walked into the chat room. Good to see you, brother. And Roger Rabbit is there now. And me, I think we're it in the chat room at the moment. But there's a bunch of others of you watching in other places. Come on over if you want to chat with us. I will take the opportunity right now to paste the link for calling into tonight's show. It's over in the chat room. We'll do it again throughout the show, so you can take a peek there if you want to call in and be part of the program tonight. Before we get rolling on the topic that I've chosen, it is Memorial Day weekend, and this always has unofficially marked the beginning of summer. Our children are actually out of school on the 30th of May this year because we had no snow days up here. They always build in extra time, and so we usually have 2 or 3 days into the month of June where they're making up for those lost days. They're out on May 30th, which is... what is that? 6 days from now. They are home for the summer. So wish us all help because Rainey and I both work here at home. So it'll be an interesting summer. But there's lots of things planned. You have plans for your holidays, for your summer vacation. We're planning on going out. And I say it that way because there's always something that gets a wrench in the gears. I've tried to do this for a few years and we just haven't pulled it off yet. But we're planning in July to go out to drive through the Black Hills, hopefully see Wounded Knee Memorial over on the Pine Ridge Reservation. Ruben was supposed to be this Ruben Fast Horse to do that in the peripheral planning of this, the early planning of it, and I'm not sure that he'll be able to be there. He has talked about wanting to come out since he has been in treatment, the hospital, for the head injury that he had. And so hopefully we'll be able to see him, but we'll see. Then from there, we want to drive out and go as far out as the Custer Battlefield, the Little Bighorn, the Greasy Grass, and where, of course, Custer met his final doom or destination or fate or destiny, as you'd like to say, at the hands of the gathered tribes of Native Americans that fought against the United States there, who were moving them off their land and trying to steal what wasn't theirs and killing them. So it will be, and that's a totally different topic, but we plan to do that in July. If we do that, we'll do some broadcasts from out there. We'll have to see how it all goes and if we actually can pull it off this year. That's, it would help if we had like a camper. We don't. We thought of tenting it along the way, staying in some motels along the way kind of thing. And my daughters, from my twin daughters, they're Mermaid Tail Company daughters. They plan to fly out and meet us and go on this trip with us. So it'll be fun. Wish us luck. So that's summer. How are your summer plans coming? So Memorial Day, just in brief, there is something I heard it sounds so trite to say my favorite president of the United States, but that would be Ronald Reagan. He is the man that I have always looked to. He was the first president I could vote for twice, two different elections. I helped get him elected. I think he was by far the finest president we've ever had. And he said this. This was his proclamation 5826, the prayer for peace on Memorial Day in 1988, his last year in office. And so on May 20th of 1988, by the President of the United States of America, this proclamation: once each May, amid the quiet hills and rolling lanes and breeze-brushed trees of Arlington Cemetery, far above the majestic Potomac and the monuments and memorials for our nation's capital just beyond, the graves of America's military dead are decorated with the beautiful flag that in life these brave souls followed and loved. This scene is repeated across our land and around the world. Wherever our defenders rest, let us hold it our sacred duty and our inestimable privilege on this day to decorate these graves ourselves with a fervent prayer and a pledge of true allegiance to the cause of liberty, peace, and country for which America has ever served and sacrificed. During our observance of Memorial Day this year, we have a fresh reason to call to mind the service and sacrifices of the members of our merchant marine during World War II. These gallant seafarers have now deservedly received veteran status. More than 6,000 of them gave their lives in the dangerous and vital duty of transporting material to our forces around the globe. We will never forget them as we honor our war dead. Our pledge and our prayer this day are those of free men and free women who know that what we all hold dear must constantly be built up, fostered, revered, and guarded vigilantly from those in every age who seek its destruction. We know, as we have our nation's defenders down through the years, that there can never be peace without its essential elements of liberty, justice, and independence. Those true and only building blocks of peace were the lone and lasting cause of hope and prayer that lighted the way of those whom we honor and remember this Memorial Day. To keep faith with our hallowed dead, let us be sure and very sure today that every day of our lives that we keep their cause, their hope, their prayer forever our country's own. In recognition of those brave Americans to whom we pay tribute, the Congress, by joint resolution approved May 11th, 1950, has requested the President to issue a proclamation calling upon the people of the United States to observe each Memorial Day as a day of prayer for permanent peace and designating a period when the people of the United States might unite in prayer. Now, therefore, I, Ronald Reagan, President of the United States of America, do hereby designate Memorial Day, Monday, May 30th, 1988, as a day of prayer for permanent peace. And I designate the hour beginning in each locality at 11 o'clock in the morning of that day as a time to unite in prayer. I urge the press, radio, television, and all other information media to cooperate in this observance. I also direct all appropriate federal officials and request the governors of the several states of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico and appropriate officials of all units of government to direct the flag be flown at half-staff until noon this Memorial Day on all buildings, grounds, and naval vessels throughout the United States and in all areas under its jurisdiction and control. And I request the people of the United States to display the flag at half-staff from their homes on this day for the customary forenoon mention. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand on this 20th day of May in the year of our Lord 1988, and of The independence of the United States of America, the 212th, Ronald Reagan. And it was filed with the Office of the Federal Register on 1104 on May 23rd of 1988, which would have been precisely 36 years ago today. Now, we do know one promise that these men and women made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke, but we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death, and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue. James Garfield said that on May 30th of 1868 at the Arlington National Cemetery, and it was originally called Decoration Day, meaning medals, the decorations, from the early tradition of decorating graves with flowers, wreaths, and flags. Memorial Day is a day for remembrance of those who have died in service to our country. It was the first widely observed on May 30th, 1868, to commemorate the sacrifices of Civil War soldiers by proclamation of General John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of former Union sailors and soldiers. So just 3 years after the end of the Civil War, 2 years, I believe. So during that first national commemoration, former Union General and sitting Ohio Congressman James Garfield made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery, after which 5,000 participants helped to decorate the graves of the more than 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers who were buried there. This national event galvanized efforts to honor and remember fallen soldiers that began with local observances at burial grounds in several towns throughout the United States. Following the end of the Civil War, such as the May 1st, 1865 gathering at Charleston, South Carolina, organized by freed slaves who pay tribute to give proper burial to Union troops. So that's interesting. The freed slaves of this country, right after the Civil War, took their freedom, and they were the ones that really began the celebrations in 1865, gathering in Charleston, South Carolina, where a few years ago at my daughter's wedding, Rainey and the kids and I, we broke off after the wedding ceremonies, and we were going to be on our way back home. We stopped in Charleston, South Carolina, and we looked around the old town, and we went to the old slave market, which still has the big sign over it in the stone that it was the slave market, and it's now a museum. So that's interesting in South Carolina that's where that took place. And in 1873, New York was the state to designate Memorial Day as a legal holiday. And by the late 1800s, many more cities and communities observed Memorial Day, and several states had declared it a legal holiday. And after World War I, it became an occasion for honoring those who died in all of America's wars, and was then more widely established as a national holiday throughout the United States. And in 1971, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act and established that Memorial Day was to be commemorated on the last Monday of May. That was only in my lifetime and some of your lifetimes. 1971, just 53 years ago. And so Memorial Day is commemorated at Arlington National Cemetery each year with a ceremony in which a small American flag is placed on each grave. Traditionally, the president or vice president lays a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. So Memorial Day has a long history here. And I hope that we do not forget what Memorial Day is about. It's easy in all the backyard grills and going out to the park and going boating and doing all the things that we do, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as we teach our children and we remember what Memorial Day is also about. So for all of those of you who've had relatives who have either died in service of this country, and I'm not talking redefining let's make it common if you worked as a janitor, you were serving our country. Not that way. I'm talking about the real thing. It's not that those people don't do their jobs and contribute to the country. This is all about our fallen soldiers, those who died in action, those who died in the service, those who were vets. We can remember them on Veterans Day, but this is Memorial Day for those who fell in the service of our country. And so remember them and remember all that has happened. And have a good weekend as you open up this gateway to summer. And from there, we're going to move on into, I did give you the link to call into this show. If you want to call in, you can call in at any time. I cannot guarantee that I will pick up your call right away. Depends on where I am in the narrative of the show, but definitely the second hour, the Captain's Cabin. And we are open at all times now where we can take calls. And so call in. Roger Rabbit says Carly is out in California on a girls' trip right now. As a family this summer, we hope to travel to disc golf courses, state parks with an 8 to 10 hour drive. See how many different courses we can play. That's pretty cool, Roger. Ryan, you can come on our trip. Get your sleeping bag packed. I think it's going to be a neat trip. So if we make it happen this year, there's so much conflict all around everything. I had to just slap it into the calendar before everything got filled up with all the stuff our family does and the scouting and different activities and all that stuff. So we had to get it in there. Chuck Thurston talks of Battle Mountain in Nevada, a site of a massacre of the U.S. cavalry by the Shoshone Indians. You can still find tons of bullets and arrowheads all over the place. Opalo Winery in Paso Robles, California, has a great disc golf course, Roger, says Chuck Thurston. Some really good wines. So there you go. So I hope you all are planning a good weekend. Tonight, I wanted to continue on with our talk of meditation. There are so many different things we can look at. And I started looking at not easy ways to build altars. We talked about that the other day. I've got that in here. We talked about the 5, how to get spirit guides and draw them into your dreams. We talked about connecting with your guides. All of that's already been talked about. And I wanted to look at a little psychological aspect to meditation about regret, feeling bad, feeling it might actually be virtuous. This is some of the things we do when we meditate. We regret or we praise some of the things we've done. And I did definitely want to look into, and I've got some stuff on regret because I put this up for the sole purpose of discussing meditation from a psychological point of view. Because we've looked at the spiritual, we've looked at the kind of woo aspects, if you will, of meditation. And I wanted to look at how we are affected by meditation, the benefits of it, meditation for life, meditation in a psychological point of view, getting started in meditation. What if you've never meditated before? What is it all about? And what's the practice about? Why should we? Meditation, it said, is kind of like to the mind what aerobics or cardio exercise is to the body. Can you come home to yourself? Is what one person asks about meditation. The practice is to meditate. It's to the mind what aerobic exercise is to the body, and like exercise, There's many good ways to do it. You can find the one that suits you best, that works the best for you. It doesn't have to be a certain length of time. It doesn't have to be in a certain place. It doesn't have to be somewhere or something that is so built up that you don't understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing. But studies have shown that regular meditation promotes mindfulness. Do you know what that means? That's something I keep trying to instill in my children. Mindfulness. We get some of its attributes: consideration, respect, politeness, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of who you are. Mindfulness. That's sustained observing awarenessness. And those benefits include decreased stress, decreased stress-related cortisol, insomnia, symptoms of autoimmune illnesses, PMS. Hey, if you're PMSing, ladies, you can meditate, and that's going to help you. It's not the cure for PMS. It's something that will help you. Asthma, falling into depression, general emotional distress, anxiety, panic, increased immune system factors, control of blood sugar in type 2 diabetes. That's what I have. Detachment from reactions, self-understanding, general well-being. In your brain, regular meditation increases gray matter, or that neuronal cell bodies and synapses. In the insula, the handles interoception, the sense of your own body, self-awareness in general, empathy for the emotions of others. The hippocampus, key role in personal recollections, visual spatial memory, flexibility of mind, establishing the context of events, calming down both the amygdala, the alarm bell of the brain, and the production of stress hormones like cortisol. Prefrontal cortex, or PFC, supports the executive functions, self-control, guiding attention. I think some of this too, like maybe Sarah just alluded to, big promises are what this is all about. Yes, these are all things that are believed can be affected by meditation. And Sarah says meditation can create mental safe spaces for us. So regular meditation increases activation in your left PFC, which lifts your mood. It increases the power and reach of the very fast gamma range brain waves, which promotes learning. In a 3-month retreat, it was found it preserves the length of telomeres, the caps at the ends of the DNA molecules. Longer telomeres are associated with fewer age-related diseases, like I signed into law the Pakalek today. Things like that. It's saying good meditation practice for the, in the long run can help you with things like that. It reduces cortical thinning due to aging in the insula and the PFC. Meditation is the quintessential training of your attention. Since attention is like a vacuum cleaner, it sucks up all its contents into your brain through what's called experience-dependent neuroplasticity. EDN, if you want to call it for short. Neuroplasticity, flexibility of mind. And it's getting better control of your attention is the foundation of changing your brain and thus your life for the better. And you can look up more stuff on this. And the research summarized in what I've just talked about just scratches the surface of the benefits to meditation. It's you saying to the world and to yourself, I'm going to step off the hamster wheel now. This time, it's for me. And it's a way to center on being rather than doing. What a relief. We're all doing. We're doers. I look at Rainey sometimes and you got to slow down the doing. You're not really being when you're doing so much. And I had somebody tell me that 30 years ago. Do you ever stop moving? When do you plan time to stop moving? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, that's the problem. And I got a good lesson on stopping and slowing down, which ever since that, I've remembered that because it was significant. Why I wasn't stopping, why I could not slow down. Quantitative and quantitative. Qualitative and quantitative. That's what you wrote. No glasses on. So it's kind of a way to center on being rather than doing, and a way to see the mind streaming along, transient, insubstantial, an unreliable basis for lasting happiness, not worth chasing after or struggling with. And the minutes I spend meditating are usually the best ones of my day. They feel like coming home. And it's good to be home. Hey, it's good to be back home again. So sometimes this old farm feels like a long lost friend. That's a good memory I had of about 15 years ago. Riding, I went with somebody up here in the Minneapolis area out to a paranormal event, and we had to stop and pick up Chip Coffey, psychic medium. You've seen him on lots of TV shows. At the time, I think he'd only been on Paranormal State that I knew of. And we picked him up, and he and I, we got to know each other. We had about a 5-6 hour drive in the car. And we found out we both like John Denver, old John Denver. We grew up in the same era. And that song, he and I sang that song. We're just passing time in the car. And we sang that song. Hey, it's good to be back home again. Just anecdotal story to go alongside of that. And that kind of sealed the kind of friendship that we built after that. And singing songs with people in the car. But this is what this is like. It's like being back home again. We sang that one. We also sang Almost Heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there. I'm trying to think of the title. Older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like a breeze, take me home. Country roads to the place I belong, West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads. We sang that one. And so the best meditation is like feeling coming home. The one you're going to do, and the best meditation of all is the one you actually do. The one that holds on for you, the one that helps you move that forward. And by the way, I just want to say, if you're looking at my video screen and I look like my face is half awake, I was drugged up most of today. I've been having this back problem, and it's different than any other back problem I've had. And so I actually went in to see the doctor about it today. And because it's acting differently than the break I've had, it's like they've dubbed it a spondylolisthesis. If any of you know the medical terms, it's my 5th or 6th vertebra up from the tailbone, and it puts a sciatica on my left and my right side. But the last flare up I had was probably 2003 or 4, but this wasn't like that. It was different, and it was debilitating. It still is. Standing up hurts. I walk crouched over for the first few steps before I can actually straighten myself out. And so I went to the doctor to check, and I go, what the hell is going on with my back? And it goes from like the back of my rib cage down. Made me think, is there a kidney issue? And I don't have no indication of that. Even a couple of weeks ago, my blood test indicated nothing about that my kidneys are normal, which comes with diabetics at times. And so everything's normal there. But so she put me on, she said, it sounds like it might be muscular, but it's not reacting to muscular stimuli to try to find it. It's not in the bones. She can't figure out what it is. So, Leslie Holker, you and me both know a lot of people having the same thing. Yeah, I went to my chiropractor for this 3 times now since this has started. And if you remember, I said Sam and I moved some sofas. We carried some sofas from down here in the downstairs to the upstairs and out. And that just felt like it put me out for a while. And I thought that's what may have started it, which says to me, muscular. But it's still going on. So she put me today on, I don't even know the name of it or the dose, but a muscle relaxant and steroids to see if she could help knock that out a little bit, relieve some of the pain. I took that around 2:00, 2:30 today. I slept. It put me under. I slept from about 2:30 to 7:30. So 5 hours in the middle of the day. Now you'd think that now I'm going to be ready to go all night. I don't know. It may still put me out. So if you notice any signs of brain slippage tonight, or if you look in my eyes and I look blurry, that's because of that. So it's a good possibility that that I still got that stuff hanging on. So that was just right in the middle. That one was for free. Had nothing to do with what we're talking about. So let's continue on with that. But relax. I think that's what that's what helped me hit that topic. There's all kinds of things that talk about meditating. Books, tons and tons and tons of books, radio shows, podcasts like this one. You can go with all of that. But the best meditation is the one that sticks with you. And relax, rest, intend to meditate, come into a sense of a presence with yourself. Know whether you're meditating in relationship to something transcendental, such as prayer, or not. I'll describe. There's secular meditations as well. Find something to anchor your attention. Sensations of breathing, a word, a phrase, an image. Use an anchor that helps you visualize where you're going and where you're going to be. You got to start by giving attention fully to the anchor, letting go of everything else. It's all about letting go and clearing your mind. There's a reason for clearing yourself of everything else. Focus on not focusing on anything. Sounds paradoxical, but there it is. And so with ongoing awareness of your anchor, you let your attention widen to include your body, your thoughts, your feelings, your wants, the overall mental atmosphere of your life. And you're not trying to make your mind blank. You got to let things come and go. Just don't jump on board any of them as they come by. Hey, watch it like it's out a window. And when I had that therapist that did a kind of a regression therapy on me, she had me say, look at it like you're on a train, watching out the window, watching things go by. Don't make any stops. Just watch things go by and focus on, she said, what comes into your mind. And without stress or strain, you have to generally open to relaxing and quieting, and to increase this stable presence as experiencing being a body breathing in peace. You breathe it in, and you don't clear into nothingness. You just let it come and go. Meditate for as long as you like. Even a minute is good. And then 10, 20, or even 45 minutes could be even better if you have the time to do it. So toward the end of meditation, let the benefits sink into you. If you tend toward disassociation or getting flooded with painful feelings when you relax into yourself, then you may need to build up more inner resources before meditating. Try to not be self-critical when you meditate. JP, I'm talking to you because I know you. You're like me. We get self-critical when we think too much and close other things out. Ryan Gale says it helps to do a guided meditation with a professional, or there are guided meditations on YouTube. Exactly, Ryan. You can go to YouTube. You can go to a center where they do meditation. You can do all of those things are very helpful. And the most important thing is find enjoyment and things that are bettering you in your meditation. And you can follow that. And that's what gets you to that feeling of, hey, Yeah. Yeah, says JP. You ain't wrong. Yeah, it's so easy to get self-critical when we've got nothing else going on in our minds, and we're striving to be something that is a little more connecting to the things we don't normally connect to. But for you, Jason, and for anybody else who struggles with this, looking inward and picking up all our critical, let it pass by. You're watching it go by out the train window. So that brings me to the topic of tonight, because I wanted to dig into this a little bit deeper in a very different way. I wanted to talk a little bit about meditation for non-meditators, starting out that way, and it's given all the disquieting things that are going on around us, like the volatility of the world economics, stock markets, jobs, etc., the powerlessness that most people are feeling, that have crossed over into anger and rage. It might be a good time to learn how to calm our minds. And while we're doing it, not just let the externals that bother us be there, but not let the self-critical things that fall into those categories as well, the things that anger us about ourselves. If you are at all introspective, and Jason could talk to this, I'm not trying to single you out, Jason, just saying you're a good example because you share a lot in this broadcast. But the things that we allow to overcome us are the things that could overcome us when we try to meditate. And we've got to try to not focus on those things. We've got to work very hard at giving all the disquieting things around us a pass. See you as it goes by the window. Given all the upset in the world, I think that it's time for many people to learn to quiet their minds. I have to do the same thing because all of the reactivity is serving no one that's out there. I include myself in this group, and I'd love to learn to meditate better than I do. Or if you have never meditated, ask yourself, what is meditation? What can you do? And so you can look at meditation in a number of different ways. It's a tool, it's a skill, it's a discipline, it's an art, and it's a science. It's a transformative practice. It's essential to something referred to as integral life mastery. Ultimately, though, as you work on transforming and awakening, meditation evolves around all these terms into a way of being in the world. How do you handle, let me ask you a personal question. How do you handle being in the world? Those of you who struggle with past things or inner conflict or criticisms, how do you handle being in the world? For those of you who are trodden under by all the unrest that's going on right now, all the divisiveness, how do you cope with that? How do you be in the world? You have to engage the mind to go beyond the mind, but how does that happen? And as a practice, meditation uses concentration, silence, silent contemplation during deep physical relaxation for experiencing this ever deepening awareness of who you are, of yourself, in such a way that it gives rise to insight and eventually transformation. And there's lots of questions about where meditation came from. It's a practice that's been around in one form or another for a very long time. And in terms of recorded history, meditation techniques from different cultures and traditions around the world have been written about and improved upon for more than 5,000 years. But since meditation is really a natural function of the human body mind, it was almost certainly a practice of prehistory as well. If you've ever stared into a flickering fire and just noticed you're just staring at it and your mind is off, you can just imagine what meditating while sitting before a sacred flame Might have been like during the shamanic spiritual practices ages ago. And in truth meditation, it's an ancient practice. It's been highly valued. It's handed down, rediscovered, innovated upon by generation after generation for millennia. But still, the big question is, what's the value of it? What's the value of doing meditation, of engaging in it? What are the benefits? And currently, there's literally over 2,000 scientific studies documenting hundreds of physical, mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual benefits that you receive from meditation. And while there are far too many to talk about in this little format we have, there are good places to go look up books. Michael Murphy put out a good book called The Physical and the Psychological Effects of Meditation. It's a good primer. You can maybe look that up. The Physical and Psychological Effects of Meditations by Mike Murphy. Think of Michael Murphy. And what does meditation lead to for us? And it really all depends. You have to consider that an integral meditation is part of an overall life practice, like brushing your teeth, washing your face, eating your breakfast. It's the things that we do for life practice, the purpose of which is to help us evolve, to deepen, to widen, and awaken in all the directions of our being. And as we know, there's certain spiritual traditions that have a very interesting notion that before you can know who you are, now get this, folks, latch onto this. Before you can know who you are, you must first know who you're not. Sounds so simple that it's stupid, but it's real. This is known as the way of subtraction, or NETI NETI, which is the topic of tonight's show. What the heck is NETI NETI? What is this way of subtraction? In essence, it means really, in part, due to the years of conditioning and habitation while growing up, we don't really know who or what and all that we truly are. In a very real sense, we suffer from the case of mistaken identity. Who are we really? If you're someone who's fully identified with your thoughts, your thinking, meaning you think you are your thoughts, and then meditation can help you experience something quite profound by beginning to observe or witness your thoughts. So what happens is you realize a very important and life-changing distinction. You are not your thoughts. Rather, you have thoughts. Period. We all have thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. Simply put, you can't be what you can witness. Therefore, your thoughts are not you. In the same way, in meditation, you can realize that you're not your feelings, but you have feelings. Another step further, you can realize that you're not your beliefs, but you have beliefs. And further still, you can realize something that's even more freeing and liberating. You are not your ego, but you have an ego as well. So through regular meditation practice, you come to realize each of these insights, not just intellectually, as so much information in your head, but through directly experiencing them. And as you do, you're realizing more of who you truly are. By witnessing your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your ego in a healthy way, you're continually converting what was originally the subject of your attention into an object of your attention. Get that? You're moving it from the subject of your attention to the object, an object of your attention. You then transcend and include each of these in your awareness. And over time, these states of awareness that you experience in meditation become stable and continuous and mature into a new higher stage of personal development. And this is all psychologically, this gives rise to an entirely new reality tunnel or view of the world. And through meditation, you come to realize that who you are is no longer sourced in your mind or body or even your ego personality, but in something else, something deeper that exists prior to all of these different aspects of your life. So who you are becomes sourced in your awareness, your awakeness, not wokeness. Woke is a totally different politicized term. Your awareness and your awakeness. Become awake. Your reality is what you pay attention to. Think about that for a second. If, like most people, you spend your whole life and all your time habitually paying attention to your thoughts and feelings, you're going to become totally identified with those thoughts and feelings, right? Well, then who are you going to think you are? Your thoughts and feelings. And as a result, you're going to become highly attached to them. Why? Because quite simply, you think they are you, that your thoughts and feelings are the true you when you strip it all away. And anything or anyone that seems to threaten those beliefs or those feelings are going to be threatening to you, quote unquote. And you're going to get really pissed off. Barbie D says, okay, Scotty was sitting quiet. It was a good show. Safe weekend. Thank you, Barbie D. Sure appreciate your being here. The same thing goes for your beliefs and your ego, too. That's why we're jokingly saying it's all a case of mistaken identity. What can you do? You have to ask. If you're attached to what is working against you, if you decide to stop and turn your attention away from your thoughts and your feelings and back toward your awareness, what's going to happen? If you spend time bringing your attention back to awareness, being aware and awake of awareness and awake over time, guess what? You're going to realize that you are awareness yourself. And when you begin to rest in that awareness, your body and mind start to integrate and work together in harmony like never before. And since you're truly a multi-dimensional being, all of us are, you actually contain three primary centers of consciousness. The awareness center, which is located, like up here. That's where we get our awareness from. The awareness center in your head. Feeling awareness center located in your heart, symbolically. And the body intelligence or awareness and life force center known as Hara. It's located below your navel. Lots of stuff below my navel. Some too much stuff below my navel. But by turning your attention to any of these centers in meditation, it's your head, your heart, and your gut. By turning your attention to any of these centers in meditation, you can experience yourself from that particular center of consciousness. Awareness of the heart or beingness, eventually resting in meditation, and all three centers of consciousness simultaneously is this profound experience of oneself as a truly multi-dimensional being. The question is, how do you do this? In this meditation, you're going to bring attention back to awareness over and over again. You continue to cultivate the meditative state by relaxing more and more deeply while refining your attention back onto awareness itself. And it's good to bring certain positive personal qualities to your practice to help ensure you experience a simpler, easier, more enjoyable, and more fruitful meditation. And the most essential quality is sincerity. Sincerity gives rise to all these other qualities as natural expression of your honest intent, which includes things like balance of persistence and patience, along with a measure of self-kindness and trust as you surrender to a process that takes time and effort. It's a gradualism. Sarah Youssef in the chat room says meditation is a type of movement. Practice enough. It's like developing a type of neuroplasticity. Exactly. or flexing your muscle, becoming flexible with your musculature. So, what is this neti neti I mentioned? There is a quote by a Maharaji, in Eastern practice that he says, his name is, if it's important, if you're going to look it up, Nisargadatta Maharaj. He says, love says, I am everything. Wisdom says, I am nothing. And between the two, my life flows. Between love saying I'm everything, wisdom saying I'm nothing, but between those two, the life flows. Negative theology is a type of religious and philosophical practice with roots that can be traced through several prominent lineages, including ancient Greek religion, early Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, are all represented by this type of philosophy. Love says I'm everything, wisdom says I'm nothing. Between the two, life flows. They may state that in different ways, but it's religious and philosophical practice within these major religions. This practice shows up in the Hindu tradition as a technique described in the Upanishads as neti neti, meaning neither this nor that. That's what neti neti means. Neither this nor that. And the approach is figured in Yanana yoga. I don't do yoga. I've pulled this information from other places. It's the yoga of direct knowledge. It's a path to self-realization. And it's not that you have to do weird things to become yoga. Oh, I got to be new age, or I got to be this, or I got to be that, or I got to be the other thing. You don't. It's just a practice that's used. And it's a way of using your mind, our minds, to negate and disidentify with all names and forms in order to distinguish between the limited and the relative world and the eternal and unchanging perfection. That is what some might call the absolute reality. So you get that? That's a lot of word salad right there. It's a path to self-realization. It's a way of using our mind to negate and disidentify with all the names and forms in order to distinguish between the limited and the relative world and the eternal unchanging perfection. We used to have a saying that kind of goes along these lines. When I was in ministry, I used to tell the kids in my youth group, never sacrifice on the altar of the eternal, or never sacrifice the eternal on the altar of the immediate. Think of that for a second. Don't sacrifice the eternal or the lasting on the altar of the immediate or the temporal. And so it's this disassociating with the things that would make us become our thoughts and our feelings as opposed to who we really are. Now, whatever can be conceived by the mind, the practice of neti neti will eventually bring us there. The actual practice is based on quite broad premise of simply taking any thought. Now, listen to this. By taking any thought or object that the mind can conceive and telling yourself, neti neti, neither this nor that, that object is not the supreme reality. What do most of us do? What do most of us who worry about who we are, what we are, where we're going, what do we do with all that? That becomes the object that we make into the supreme reality. But the neti neti, neither this nor that, is taking any thought or object that the mind can conceive and telling yourself, that is not my supreme reality. This thing, this person, this attitude, that's not my supreme reality. The object could be anything. A new car, your job title, your cat, your romance, lack of romance. Another way to practice this is to think of statements like, I am my name. I am my body. I am my personality. And then disidentify from them, negating them with neti neti. It's neither this nor that. And when I do this, I find that the mind eventually tires of putting on labels. And we start to slide into modes of seeking that originate from somewhere deeper. Why is it that people can't just latch onto this naturally? Is this an unnatural thing for human beings to do? Maybe it is. Maybe in our natural state, we focus on the things we don't need to focus on. What did the Apostle Paul say in the New Testament? It's just popped into my head. I didn't write this down. But in the New Testament, he said, all the things that I should be doing, I find I don't do. And all the things that I shouldn't be doing, I find myself constantly engaging in. And he says, I find a law within my body that I am constantly fighting against myself. So our mind eventually tires of putting on the labels, and we start to slide into these modes of seeking that originate from somewhere deeper. Do you ever do that, folks? Do you ever stop long enough to look at the things you focus on, to look at the way you identify yourself and say, these are not the things of who I am. There is something deeper here. Maybe a good intention for you to put out there is one of saying, I don't care what stage you're at in this, it's a good practice. Put out there, my intent is to awaken myself, to become awake, to become aware that I am awake, and that all of life is the dream state, figuratively speaking, and that I have to rise above that. I have to do it in my job, in my relationship, in my personal life, in the way I do things, the way I view things and see things. I sometimes get into these arguments with people on politics. And there's a lot of people I see that are supposed to be good people that continually name call me or whatever in their discourse. And I say, I told somebody the other day, I said, look, you don't know me well enough to call me those things. I said, maybe what we need to do is both of us start thinking above and beyond those things. Why do you think this way? Why is that way? Why do we think about this at all? How do we move above that and move into something else? Hey, Rowan.
We're home.
I have a daughter coming home. Where have you been?
The emergency room.
Oh, you went to the emergency room for what? I see you're gimping. Nobody tells me what's going on ever. Did it happen at the beginning of the radio show?
Yeah.
So you've only been there and gone in less than an hour?
We left around 8, like 20.
Wow.
Look.
Well, I was here. Hold on, folks. I'm being shown injuries. What'd you do? Quickly, because I am doing radio. I see the bruise. What'd you do?
I tripped outside on like the wood in the back.
Yeah.
When we step up on the wood to get inside.
Yeah.
Tripped on that, and one leg.
Tripped on wood.
One leg went that way, one leg went that way. And
nice. Splits.
Slammed into the step.
Ow.
Yeah. And then I broke Mom's flower pot.
Uh-oh. I bet she loved that.
I didn't tell her we were there so she couldn't yell at me.
Well, I'll see you in a little bit, okay? I'm going to finish this up. Folks, I'm sorry, but I make no apologies. That was my kid, and it's after 10 o'clock. I've always told them they could come down here and after 10, but now we're kind of in this newer format, so. All right. So let's kind of finish this up, and let's get your calls. It's that you call in, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. I'm just learning about this practice, this neti neti thing. And it really seems, when you think about it, it seems quite esoteric. It resonates more with some people than others, but it can be useful for beginners and advanced practitioners of meditation. I'm not a beginner, but I'm not as advanced as I should be or could be. And I find it useful to contemplate how this concept of negation is parallel in other more superficial aspects of life. It's a natural way of seeking truth. You may have applied this method in an attempt to find romantic partners. Not that one. Going through the process of, figuring out what doesn't work for you in order to eventually arrive at what does facilitate your contentment. How's that for the most practical way to give an example of what this does? That we figure out what doesn't work for us in order to eventually arrive at what does facilitate our contentment. The same could be said if you're engaging in a conscious relationship with your food. Steak. We are one, my steak and I. But personally, I came to conscious eating at a time when my diet included an extremely broad spectrum of foods. Well, to say I came to that, I'm working on that. I got to think about it. Sometimes I like just sloppy junk food too. But as you start to consider your choices more thoughtfully, you start slowly eliminating specific items and even whole food categories. I'm diabetic and I've got to think that way. There's certain things I'm like, I just can't do that anymore. I don't eat a hell of a lot of candy anymore. I consciously, slowly over the years put that out of my mind. I love pastries. Love them. I love naked women. You give me a naked woman with a box of pastries, gone, man. So those are the things, you have to work on the things that work for you and the things that don't. Facilitate the things that do. So you have to consider your choices thoughtfully. And you eliminate the things that don't work. And these are very mundane comparisons to in a process. Yeah, your taste changes as you get older too. Yeah, there's that, Sarah. And sometimes it comes naturally. Sometimes we facilitate that natural change in our tastes. Sitting down and eating a bag of chocolate just doesn't work for me. I say bag because Rainey brings these bags of chocolates home, chocolate bars assorted. I'm just like, get that out of my sight. I'll have a couple and I'll go, oh, that's enough. So they're mundane. But is Neti Neti this bottomless pit? Well, kind of yes and no. There are times when you can practice this Neti Neti and feel like it was absolutely futile. Resistance is futile. And it can feel that way. It's in fact, if you only approach the process with the mind, going beyond this level is one of the goals of the technique. Ultimately, Neti Neti can only get you so far and can and should be complemented by other practices. But the true sense of divine reality is, in fact, ineffable. When you're trying to pin this down with the mind, it feels like a really difficult mystery that can't be solved. Why? Because we're thinking about not thinking and thinking. But by accessing deeper layers of being, the difficult mystery becomes a beautiful mystery. And some of the sense of understanding can be gained. If this understanding is held only in your head, you can know it, but you're not being it. The head is saying, oh, I know, I'm the mystery, and yet your body's acting like it didn't get the message. It's saying, I'm still somebody. I've got all these anxious thoughts and wants and desires. That's the physical side of our psyche. And when we're being it knowingly, the whole being receives the message. And when the whole body receives the message, it's like air going out of a balloon. And when all the contradiction, the turmoil, the searching for this and that deflates, there's the experience that the body is an extension of the mystery. Then the body can easily be moved by the mystery, by pure spirit. Think about that for a while. in kind of a deeper understanding of just the mechanics of the term, neti is the combination of two Sanskrit words, na and iti. N is negative, iti negates or indicates like this, or simply this. So hence neti neti means not this, not this. And the answers that normally you get for the question, who am I? Well, neti neti, not this, not that. Who am I? Are negated one by one as not this and not that. And the seeker rejects the body as I am not the body. Likewise, I'm not the mind. I'm the intellect. I am the like. When you die and your body is laid to rest, if you're not cremated, that's not you anymore. Duh, big duh on that. We are the pure consciousness that is in, and the brain's still in there. It's just not functioning anymore because there's no functionality in it. So this is interesting stuff, and I thought it was something good to wrap up a week of talking about meditation. The awareness of awareness in meditation consists of 3 simple steps. Look at an object, become aware of your awareness, observe awareness. That's the awareness of meditation. And allow yourself to relax and let go of the object. Shift your attention away from it. Notice that there's awareness. It's looking through your eyes right now. Not thought, but awareness. I've done that several times, and I make the conscious. I see something and I go, no, not that. Moving on. I'm telling my brain to say no, but let your awareness do that. And you dig a little deeper. So there it is. So neti neti, what is this neti neti again? What does it mean and what does it do for you? Love says I am everything. Wisdom says I am nothing. Between the two, my life flows. That is awareness. So what's the difficulty in all this? The difficulty is doing it. It's making it work. And you know what? You're never going to make it work. And don't strive to understand it before you do it. Understand it as the awareness comes out. JP says, single me out all you want. If I can be a lesson for someone, then let me be a lesson. LOL. I think yeah, it's good. I single myself out too in all that. So we're going to think about that. That was a half an hour ago he said that, by the way. So in the show. So there you go. Most of the time I fall asleep, says Morgan Snow. Yeah, it's real easy to fall asleep when you're meditating if you try to empty things out and be aware of what is there, of focusing. So find a time when you're not overly tired. Just take a few minutes and strive to try to, not even try, just to do. There is no try. There is only do. Yeah, my Yoda has waned over the years with malpractice. So there you go, folks. We're going to take a break for a couple of minutes, and we're going to come right back, Captain's Cabin-ish style, and we'll take it from there. We'll see where y'all are, what y'all want to talk about. So in the meantime, live long and prosper if you don't stick around. If you stick around, we'll see you in a few.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Hey, welcome back to the Captain's Cabin. Arr, as they say, arr. Welcome to the cabin. And remember, all of this is more like guidelines. It's not rules. So good to see you all. Welcome back to the program on a Friday evening. I hope your Friday is going well and everything's going well for you. So what's going on out there? You saw the link. The link is here. If you want to call in about anything and talk about it here, there is the link. It's in the chat room. And you can call in here tonight and we can talk a little bit about that. I spilled my water here in the meantime, and I didn't have time to go looking for a rag, so I got a nice puddle down there I got to watch out for. And or if kids come down here. But it is Friday. It's a week before the end of school. So my kids have a light week coming up this next week. And so there we are. And it's going to be more late nights for them, more doing stuff. We don't let them stay up all night, but we let them have a little more leeway with bedtime in the summertime. How about you? How about you guys? What do you do in the summer with yourself, with your kids? So and all of that. So my kids are always full of injuries and illnesses and things, but I've noticed that when it's not something that could potentially keep them out of school, they're not as injured or ill as they like to come on most of the other times. So there you go. What do you think? What's going on out there? So anybody got anything to say about tonight's show? You can call in. I'm done talking about the topic. because I've finished that for the evening. I'm sure, though, that there are hours and hours and hours of things that we could talk about on this given topic anytime we wanted to. So, what's on your mind? What do you guys want to talk about? We can talk about ghosts. We can talk about other stuff going on, politics. We could get into politics. You want to talk politics? Let's do that. We can, there's a lot of weird stuff going on out there. I think the whole thing, election stuff, it's starting to be over. I'm getting over it. It's over for me. I hate to continually point out the negative problems with Joe Biden, because it just doesn't matter anymore. We all know, and everybody knows it. They're either going to switch a candidate at the last minute during the convention, which I can't see them not doing. It just, because it seems like his own party, as well as the press, which is, whether you agree with this or not, the press is aligned with the left. So they're going to push the left's president. They're not going to push the right's president, but they're coming to this realization, I think. In some of the news stories I've seen, they talk about Joe Biden in not pretty terms anymore. Yeah, you can't listen to him, Morgan. I agree. He's really tough to listen to. And I've got to tell you this, there is a part of me that says, I feel bad for the man. Everybody says he's a bad man. You shouldn't feel bad for him. I feel bad for him because he's an old man that's being used by a party. And he's not an old man that was allowed to be an old man. He should be doing other things. I don't know. Maybe this exercises the elasticity. Does Joe Biden meditate? Has he ever? Does he? We don't know these things about the man. You can't hate the person, but you can hate or dislike the things that they stand for or do. Does that mean the person, the soul at the core, is rotten? I don't know. All I know is I get tired of the negative press about it. And so Joe Biden, there's no question. He's not fit for the office. And they're going to keep pushing him right now because they haven't made the change yet. They don't want to lose people from the Democratic Party. Yeah, I wonder what they tell him too, Morgan Snow. Morgan So says over in the chat room, I wonder what they tell him, because he really thinks that he's a phenomenal president. And maybe that's okay, Grandpa. You're good. You're good. Oh, you're doing the right thing. Have your porridge now. I mean, is this what's going on with him? Is he being told things? Things are really kept from him, and he has no real awareness. He's very cloistered and sheltered in his position. He's many times said, I can't say that. They won't let me talk about that, or they won't let me do that, or I'll get in trouble if I say this. He's slipped out at times. And so what is it he's not supposed to be doing? You can see that Jill has become quite exasperated with him at times. That shows up in public with body language. It's there. I'd like to have a body language specialist on and talk about body language and the things we can see in body language that means something. So that's political, I guess, but it's also current events. I sometimes try to separate the two. We can talk politics, which is me venting on philosophy of politics or political philosophy or ideology, or we can look at current events and say, here's my opinion of what's going on out there. Cold, fresh water. So half of it in my lap, half of it on the floor. And so I jostled my water. I did one of these. So while I was looking at the camera reading, I reached over to get something and I knocked that during the break and just about lost the whole thing. I fumbled it a bit, came out half wet, and the floor's got a puddle. Other than that, we're doing okay over here. So what else? I was thinking of something else to bring up in the cabin that is current event, and I'm not sure what it is. I almost didn't do a show tonight. Like I say, I was on the meds that put me out for 5 hours this afternoon and early evening, and I slept from about 2:30 to 7:30, and I thought somewhere in there I woke up and staggered up to the bathroom, and literally staggered, leaning on the wall half of the time, going, "Whoa!" I didn't need to navigate those stairs, and thinking I am not doing radio. And I almost put up, if I'd have been functioning, I'd have put up a notice saying I'm not doing a show tonight, folks. But I woke up at 7:30 and I stood up and did all that, and frankly, it was okay. And I hope I came across like my brain is at least working. How you doing tonight, Sarah?
Hey, Scotty.
What's going on?
Same old, same old.
Same old. What's same old for you? What do you do? What's your spare time look like? I know you used to travel. Do you still travel much?
Yeah, I mean, usually I still travel for work and stuff, but I mean, nowadays I seem to have less spare time to do
recreational travel.
It just gets into the cycles of work and home and work and home.
Right.
Get into a rut. But I did have a question which kind of relates to everything that you've said before in regards to meditation and Memorial Day.
Yeah.
So you talked about the 11th hour, where everybody is supposed to be focused into prayer,
that was a Reagan thing, yeah.
Right.
Hour of 11 to noon.
I mean, you could also consider that a mass meditation event.
You could.
Right? I mean, as far as
and we've had mass meditation events. I never quite hear what the outcome of those events are. I just hear about them leading up to them, and then you don't hear much about them again. So, hey, here's what we found was accomplished during the mass meditation. Unless they just talk about accomplishing togetherness or whatever. What have you found? You found anything different about that?
I mean, it's suggestive because, I mean, like you were saying, that if we practice meditation within ourselves, it, develops like you said earlier, like a muscle, we are able to do and explore more because meditation, in a way, it's a form of movement. So some people can evolve it to the point where they're doing things like astral projection, or bilocation, or remote viewing. The thing is, with us as human beings, we are constantly outputting energy into, not just in the physical world, but in the other dimensional spaces, we are outputting energy. We're building constructs. So when it comes to a mass meditation event, it's like we're unified under a certain construct. So does that, in some, the woo-woo circles, as you like to call them, or,
Sure.
Does that lead to a feeding into a global consciousness?
And does and in other words, my words, a variation of your own, does mass meditation, is it meaningful? Is it effective? Is it efficacious? Does it do something by having a bunch of people meditate at the same time, focusing on particular issues?
It's the same thing as casting magic, or the efficacy of prayer.
Sure.
So I mean, it's focused intention. So yes. I mean, if it's like do you remember that old, was it Coke or Pepsi, that old Coke commercial?
The world to sing.
Right, that one.
Perfect harmony. Yeah, it was interesting. If you were ever a fan of the show Mad Men, Don Draper,
that was in the finale, I think. Right?
The ad agency dude in the 1960s, early 60s, was, they went through all these seasons of pretty much all about him, but that's how they ended the series, as he's coming out of his total abandonment of everything he once was, and running and not knowing where he's going. He ends up
that was a bit of a stretch for me. I mean, compared to where
that from where he was,
strange. Yeah.
But then they've got him sitting in a circle and they're all meditating and something's going, and the camera kind of zooms in slowly on him and his eyebrow goes up and he raises, and the next thing they're in the middle of the I'd like to teach the world to sing Coke ad. And it's like, I have just hit my new beginning as an ad man, and that, was fictionally saying he was responsible for that, and that brought him back into his advertising days. And in the when was that? That was late 60s, wasn't it? Mid to late 60s?
Yeah.
That ad came out? I'd like to buy the world a Coke. I want to see when that came out. I'm just interested in World of Coke. That came out in 1971.
Oh, okay. So barely missed it. So
there you go. And so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like muscle memory, and I don't know if it'll be like it's not a bad thing to say, but it's like we develop a Pavlovian response to certain, stimuli, and through meditation, we can kind of direct and manipulate that.
Yes.
What we consider positive and negative. I mean, meditation also has its forms, such as through hypnosis and to actually have, healing abilities.
I want to look into this whole thing as I researched this, and I made mention of it tonight, the use of meditation and also the NETI NETI that kind of is something that people use against diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I don't know if that's just
I've never heard of the case. I mean, myself, but
I haven't either. And I wrote it down because it was in a list of things I saw, but I'd like to look into that.
I mean, just from I haven't done any research myself into it, but I mean, if that was true, I think it would be more prominent in our culture. But I mean, as far as the diabetes is concerned, meditation may affect mindset in terms of, satiety and hunger.
Well, this says that meditation can help people with diabetes in several ways, including regulating body systems, reducing stress, improving mood, reducing inflammation, improving self-management.
Right. So that's where, you're managing your eating and all that, but it's not going to reach to the point where you're going to be your pancreas is suddenly going to start making insulin, and come off it. I mean, you have to you can't get around doing the work,
Right.
Sometimes you have instances where you may regain some function, if you get your body back in balance. And
I'm looking at something here that gives 5 ways that meditation can benefit people with diabetes. It says, number 1, lower blood sugar. It says it might seem too good to be true, but research shows meditation may lower blood sugar, and it may also boost your mood. One small study suggests that meditation can lower blood glucose and A1C levels while raising happiness scores. I've never seen those come up in my testing when I get a blood test, but happiness scores. But researchers believe there's a link between the two because mindfulness can help you regulate emotions, be kinder to yourself, lower overall stress. And so these are the external things that would affect the physical thing, is what it's saying.
Yeah, because people will stress eat when they're bored or high stress situation.
And I like food. I am a foodie. I love the taste of certain things, and sometimes those certain things are some of the bad things for us. And I'm not a big candy eater, as we talked about in the chat room, and junky food like that. But I like food that's not the best food for. I like mashed potatoes and gravy.
Sure.
And I like that with meat. I don't like it just alone, but I like sticky rice. I like to make jasmine rice, and Rainey puts a little less water in it. So it's a little stickier. And I love a stir fry, which is supposed to be good. You just think, stir fried vegetables. Well, sauces and meats and all that you add to it can be the things that. So this is saying that meditation can help you eat more mindfully. It's one of the biggest challenges for someone with diabetes, managing
Well, I mean,
what
the
you
challenge
eat.
is, I mean, it's not like you cannot have them. The problem
Mhm.
is that you can have all that, but you have to have,
You
uh,
might
you have to
get
compensate it by
yeah,
with the lifestyle. You know, if you're
yeah,
out hunting without a without a gun, running around for 50,
right.
50 miles, and like basically like a caveman, then yeah, because I mean, our bodies, they're from through evolutionary processes, it's going to want to gain energy, and the quickest way that you get energy is through sugar. So through
Yeah,
sugar and
yeah,
carbs. So I mean, it's going to want to retain that, for
yes.
survival. But I mean,
Um, it reduces stress, it says here. Stress reduction, we know that.
yeah.
Better to handle coping, practice, maintaining memory, staying focused regularly. Lowering blood pressure. Now, I have noticed this. I will
Hmm.
incorporate sometimes some very quick, minor meditative techniques
Right.
when I go into the doctor. Like I
Hmm.
went in today and my because of my back,
Hmm.
and my blood pressure was like 154 over something, and I said that is really high.
Yeah.
And they said, we want to take that again before we're done. 15 minutes. And I just, when they were taking it, I just closed my eyes,
Hmm.
breathed, and I did a quick meditation. And I came out 114 over
Yeah.
something. I can't remember what the lower was.
No, but yeah, that
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 was,
is that is actually true. I see that a lot in the office. We call it white coat syndrome. When you first
there you
get
go.
in, and you get a high reading and said, okay, let's wait 15 minutes.
Do
Get
you
you in the
know
room and
what
relax.
always comes to mind
Hmm.
is an old Jimmy Stewart movie. I don't know what the movie was. He was an insurance salesman, but he had learned this meditative technique, and he's trying to sell a guy his insurance policy, but he can't get an insurance policy. It's an old black and white film.
Hmm.
He can't get it because his blood pressure is too high, and so it shows. Okay, we're going to try this technique, and Jimmy Stewart almost hypnotizes him, but it was a kind
Hmm.
of a funny scene. He goes, "Now imagine yourself," and they're taking his pumping up his blood pressure. You're by, a nice lake, and it's gentle, and you're fishing, the thing you love to do the most. And the old guy's going, old
Hmm.
movie acting.
Right.
He's sitting back, and the guy's blood pressure was perfect. And they said, "Sold. You got your your insurance policy now." And I don't know what the movie was or the outcome of that. If it had, I don't think it revolved around that per se.
Right.
It was just a scene in the movie, and I thought it was.
Right.
So yeah, we all know that
And things like, and it's like your emotional state, pain, they can all affect blood pressure and your blood sugar.
pain. That's one of
Yeah.
the things here. Diabetes is a chronic disease that may affect many areas of your body, such as your eyes, your feet, your blood vessels, your nervous system,
Right.
because how diabetes can affect these areas of your body, it may cause chronic pain. And studies suggest that,
Neuropathy. Yeah.
yeah, neuropathy. I've got wicked neuropathy in my feet.
Hmm.
And I only say that it's like, I don't like the feeling of not having certain, or feeling like I'm walking around barefoot and I've got a pair of socks on,
Hmm.
is the feeling it gives me.
Yeah.
And but I can step on a Lego and it's still, I'll jump through the ceiling.
Well,
Uh,
anybody will do that.
yeah.
So, I
And
mean,
so it's not like you lose all sensitivity in your feet. So your nerve endings are starting to clutch up.
yeah.
And I don't know if there's any undoing that once it happens, but I know they look in neuropathy. I went to a place once to check out neuropathy in my feet about 3 years ago. And the guy's watching me. One of the tests was he wanted to watch me walk down the hall and back.
Hmm.
And he's like, "You're not walking like you have neuropathy." And he was a little frustrated. I said, "Because I take mental note of how I walk. Um, because somebody with neuropathy, you don't have as much feeling in your feet. They
Right.
tend to clomp their feet in front of them, like when you're drinking or something." And he was looking for that. And I consciously don't do that. So, yeah, it can work for that. And, of course, getting exercise.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Meditation helps you
exercise will
exercise.
always help, and in control of the blood sugar. But
Yeah.
meditation, and you see like a lot of videos on YouTube on Shaolin monks and people of extreme faith doing extraordinary things, or having not a invulnerability, the pain, or that they claim on YouTube, because
I wonder if she's Morgan's nose says neti neti sounds like the nose wash, the neti pots. I wonder if that's where the term came from. The neti pot.
I don't know.
Neti pot. I'm just curious.
But it's interesting. I mean, when you said that quote earlier about love being everything and wisdom being what was
Nothing.
it? Wisdom,
It's
being
the idea that love tells us we're to be everything. Wisdom tells us we're to be nothing, and the path is in the middle of that. Is the
because
idea?
we have to balance the two.
Yes.
I mean, love can also revert to forms of intimacy. We have an intimacy with God. We have intimacy with everything in the physical world in which we interact with and have an effect on. Those are all relationships.
Yes.
And with knowledge of wisdom being nothing, I see that as sort of as kind of a show of humility.
Yes.
We don't really understand
I think that's what it's
that goes
meant
on
to
in the
be.
universe.
What they mean by that, I think it's that show of humility that says we're nothing. We kind of look at that. It's the whole self-denial of Christianity. That's the wisdom comes from the self-denial, denying self and elevating Christ or God above everything else. And that is the way we do things. This is the way,
Well, I mean, it's
thing,
that attitude, definitely. Because I mean, I've seen and heard a lot of accounts and where people, said, to have a reliance on your relationship with God, for example. It said, it's like saying, okay, God, I got this, and you only go so far,
right?
And it's like, if your life is not what you intended it to be, or you're not at a place where you want your life to be in this whole life journey, and you'll be like, well, you said you got this, so I mean, you can rely on others, or rely on God, and see if that makes a difference, and if you're happy. I mean, some people claim to be happier, they come away from it not atheism, but I mean, but as far as having a relationship with something or someone, or from a divine perspective, or just even having people in your life in the physical world. I mean, they all have an effect on us. Our emotional state affects the physical state and the release of hormones, like you were talking about earlier. I mean, it's all interconnected, and if we realize and awaken ourselves to realize what the nature of those connections, we can manipulate them enough to put them to our advantage.
Yes.
So, I mean,
I think so. So is meditation? Are we really connecting with spiritual, or is spiritual an added dimension? Is meditation then just something that it helps us adjust our physical state of mind?
Well, I think that we are human beings. We're also here in the physical world, but we have an interdimensional aspect to us. So, I mean, yeah, I would say maybe a dimension. I mean, through our limited mental capacities, we try to define constructs within the spiritual realm, and saying there's such things as angels and demons and intentions, and or try to define concepts of something as that wants to harm you or help you or love you, or all that.
Right.
So, but I mean, I think with the difference, which it seems like we tend to humanize it to a point, where we try to again form that connection and humanize that sort of constructs, and saying there's entities out there that are like gods and demons and angels and archons, and every culture has its own form of it. So it's I think what's limiting us is our ability to put a label on it, rather than, and in meditations, you said, you don't think about it. You just exist. You just be.
Right.
I am that I am. And that's it.
Yeah. Think not, try not, do. So, yeah.
Well, that's Yoda. But,
That's Yoda. Yeah.
but in terms
So,
of,
yeah.
and yeah, so it seems like, we try to focus on what sometimes we over focus on certain areas. Like we want to see what the big picture is, or we micromanage something to the point where, we drive ourselves crazy, which, that's certainly with
Yes.
me, it's like I get anxiety ridden where I
Yep,
have to
I hear that.
manage everything. I have to manage everything just to be able to function.
See, I think that's what my wife experiences in her anxiety over her day-to-day life. It's the anxiety of trying to make everything work right.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets buried in that sometimes. And it's like, honey, chill down, chill. And, that doesn't help any. But
No, but I mean, you also have to remember that, we are living life. And
mhm.
we're living life. There's going to eventually, part of living life is experiencing trauma.
Yes.
So what all that is also going on within a person and their bodies and all that. And meditation is a form of, in the, like you see in the church when they talk about taking confession is reconciliation.
Yes.
Reconciliation with your trauma. It's not like you can kick trauma out of your body. You have to accept it and acknowledge it for what it is. I mean,
Yes.
even there's a famous doctor, Dr. Peter Levine. He talked about somatic therapy, which he utilizes similar to hypnosis and meditation. I mean, I actually need to look more into it because it was really intriguing from the talk that I heard he gave. That through meditation, that we can have the ability to make ourselves feel better.
Yes.
And be okay with things that you're not okay with now. Come to terms with it.
Yes.
And that means it's like feels like the pressure's off. It's like
Yes.
you can breathe, you can have be fluid like water, and to have that adaptability, which humanity does to a point. I mean, if we didn't get riled up about everything, or whether it's politics or anything, it'd be like, whatever happens, it is what it is, and we just have to deal with it or not let it affect us, right? I mean, it's adjustment of those filters that we always talk about, energetic filters, what we allow to affect us and what we will push out. So
yes,
I mean, it all ties together. So
sure it does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So meditation. Do you meditate? Put you on the spot.
I mean, traditional meditation,
Mm-hmm.
no. I mean, I do pray a lot. So I mean, I'm Muslim, so 5 times, 5 times a
Sure.
day, plus whatever in between when I need it.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, not sitting down and sitting down, cross-legged and going om. I don't do that.
Right.
But I have a really hard time with traditional meditation because getting my mind to quiet. It's like I'm constantly, if I try to relax, it's like my thoughts are like ping pong balls in a windstorm, ping 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 ping, and then be like, if I try to relax it, I'll suddenly think of something.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll suddenly think of something. Oh, did I do this? Did I do that? Is it some, or random stuff will come up, and sometimes that is helpful because it's like sort of like listening to your body and saying, okay, you need to deal with this issue because it's coming up to the forefront. Said, okay, we need to deal with this issue now, and then and then it's constant, through whatever traumas and stuff that we have through our lives and stuff. So
Right.
I mean, it's like self-therapy. I mean, it's cheaper than going to a therapist. And even in the realm of energetic, it's like what they call shadow work, right?
Yes.
You deal with dealing with your inner stuff. It's very Jungian and conflict.
Which I like. I cannot say I am a Jungian expert or specialist, but I've studied him a bit, and I sure do like his approach to things. I studied him a lot when I was doing, I still do, but when I was doing a lot of tarot.
Right.
And by the way, is it pronounced tarot or tarot?
I don't know. It's tomato to me.
I ran across an old conversation that popped up in, was it memories, or did I screen save it? I may have screen saved it, that somebody else had posted about my tarot readings a few years back and had said, you ought to talk to this guy and this and that. And she said, well, I watched the little video you posted, and he is too pretentious for me because he mispronounces tarot. He says tarot instead of tarot, which means he's trying to be highbrow and this and that. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't in that conversation, so I couldn't respond to it. But I was like, well, no, I say it the way I learned it, tarot.
Right.
My aunt used to call it tarot, and my aunt was as
so I mean,
unpretentious as
just
they can.
that sort of stuff. I mean, I don't know, but with social media and everything, it's sort of, it's like we've gone to the dark ages, and where we're in terms of spiritual growth and all that. I mean, it's like we're literally poisoning ourselves.
Yes. By the way, I just brought JP in while you were talking. I just noticed you were out there. I don't know how long you've been sitting there. So
not too awful long.
Not too awful long. I don't feel too rejected yet.
Yeah. Well, you guys are sitting there talking about philosophers.
Amen, Professor Bauer, by the way.
And I tell you what, I can't even. So
why?
It's hard. I mean, it's difficult.
It was a play.
Yeah.
It was a play on words.
Can't. I can't even. Yeah. I thought, what's with the affectatious accent there, Jason? Can't even. Oh, can't. K-A-N-T, folks, if you didn't catch that. So.
Because I mean, even in with different religions, there's a exploration of meditative states. I think with what is it, the not the Protestants, the there are different sects that speaking, they go into states where they're speaking in tongues, or feel like they're being affected by an altered mental state of the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
So I mean, meditation, it's all around us. I mean, we just call it by a different name or a different practice. I mean, it's how we interact within our world when we get in the zone. That's what I see. I was trying to get to a point with that a while back, and I forgot, and then
you just pulled a me.
Yeah, basically. But I mean,
that's
especially when it comes to creative process, things, advancements like in art and creative processes, and where we had advances in science and art, and you talk to these people, who are inventors and artists and all that, and how those things came to be. They often, bring it up as a part of meditation. Like they were, if you just relax enough, it comes to you, which is interesting,
Why does it have to come in a relaxed state? Is it just because we're clearing our mind of clutter, or?
Well, I mean, it's that, or you have that hyper focus. I mean, because right now, most people right now, they have to deal with 50 million things rather than sit and focus on one thing. I mean,
See, I've never thought of considering hyper focus as a meditative state.
It gets me too deep when I do it.
Well,
I analyze too much.
When I get hyper focused on something, and it's kind of been a long time since I've really, really hyper focused to where hours pass and I don't realize it, kind of thing.
Sure.
I was always working on something,
Right.
a model, a drawing.
Yeah.
You
I have.
know, well, I mean, yeah,
And it's
kind of a
focused
hat, but
intention. Yeah.
it's one of those things that like I've just always attributed that to my ADHD side, where it slips into hyper focus mode,
Sure.
and so it's interesting to think of hyper focusing as a meditative state, but I can kind of see where you could kind of make the equivalency.
Well, I mean, speaking of, certain types of mental diagnoses, if you look with people with certain types of autism, there's a whole spectrum of people who, who may be hyper focused on, a singular thing.
Right.
And then with autism, it's a fine line, because then you also have savantism.
Yeah.
That they've been
That's
so
hyper-focused.
hyper focused that they end up being a genius in one area, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Meditation is something, though, in the more classical bent, is something that I've never really been able to do, and I blame my ADHD on that, because I have entirely too many things going through my head. Or
I would bet you are somebody who has a lot of difficulty being hypnotized.
Yes, immensely. It's
Because I am
like
that way too.
they can't.
There's so much junk going on in my brain all the time.
Well, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna try hypnotism. So go ahead and focus on my voice, and we're gonna slowly count back from whatever, and then it gets going deeper and deeper. Now we're deeper. Like that whole thing. Like my brain's sitting there being like, wait, am I actually that deep? Am I deep? Am I deep enough yet?
She said a little
exactly like
rasp,
me.
and when she said deeper, her voice rasped a little bit. Does she have a cold? I'm wondering.
Right. Like, it's typically whenever I've been with someone who's tried it, it's always been one of those things where I'm sitting there and my brain is going a million miles an hour about trying to get there.
Yes.
So like I can't even
right
let go to get there.
Yeah.
I understand that fully. And I think that there are things. I'm going to ask you this, but not expect an answer at this point unless you want to, because it's a huge topic. But I have noticed that people who have the most problem focusing are people who have, you could call them traumas, emotional traumas, physical traumas from the past that prevent them from being able to, they have worked on such a cover story for themselves, not a false one, but a cover story for their lives and their memories, and that the way they cope is as I wrote about once, I took all these buried emotions and I put them in a metaphoric tin can and buried them in the backyard.
Yeah.
And so everything else, in order to try to get to the core of letting go and opening up, is that process you have to go through of, oh shit, I have to dig up the can and open it up to do that.
Right.
Rather than just make the can the thing I'm trying to overcome. It's all those things that we've built around covering getting there that are preventing us from getting there.
Right.
It's all the dirt you piled up on top of the can in the bottom of the hole.
Right.
But the thing is that it never really goes away, especially when it comes in terms of trauma. People who have experienced trauma, such as, sexual trauma and etc., they come out with a sense of hypersensitivity. Like if someone had been raped, they would be, very conscious of their surroundings. How many exits are there? If there's what's the proximity to the nearest? If it was male, female, whatever. Then what the proximity is to the person is to you, or making sure you have enough exits, or you have an ability to escape. So I mean, that's a form of hypersensitivity, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, And it,
No
I mean,
doubt.
it's all has to do with the balancing act, and
Yes.
that also helps with the reconciliation, where you can just it's not just we can just take could have a control set of breathing and let everything go. It's not like you can, even with meditation, you can't just do like 10 sessions and be completely changed. I mean, it's an ongoing lifetime process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because things will never go away, because the past is in the past, and it did happen. So I mean, people have things that affect them or change them. So we're just still in a constant state of evolution and change. So people use meditation to kind of direct the flow of the direction that we're going. Okay, it's like saying, okay, I have a negative behavior that I have to try and mitigate, then through meditation and stuff, it helps. I mean, but it's not you're still putting band-aids on a bullet wound until you actually deal with it.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
with memory, it never goes away.
And by the way, I had popped up this website earlier in the show, and I didn't refer to it. We were talking about the mass meditation, and I called up it's a website. I looked up mass meditation, and a website called thebigquiet.com. Now, it's got some of the personalities and figures that you look at and you go, oh, too new age for me. I mean, they've got Chopra. What's that?
Oh, no, I was like, you said too new age for me. I was like, yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see, the Oprah's in the background there talking. There's a bunch of images going by. But it says it's a mass meditation movement for modern people. Sit with us. We gather thousands of people for moments of quiet, connection, and music at the most iconic places on earth. And recent collabs it shows, and so you can look at that and see what they're all about. You can stream them on Audible if you've got an Audible account. Meditation at sunset, beginning with gratitude, crystal bowl breathing, the brightness of you. What are some of these other ones that are in here? So
it's like that Marie Kondo spark joy.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
It's like that Marie Kondo spark joy.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Try to.
So is this stuff all bad because we make these certain associations with? Oh my God, it's Deepak Chopra. Oh my God, it's Oprah. Ain't doing that, kind of thing, or is it, is it?
I mean, it's bias and closed-mindedness. I mean, if we look at a mass meditation event, it's not just stuck in the woo-woo realm of New Age.
Right.
I mean, we've been doing it for millions, not millions, but
generations,
like thousands of years. Even within Christianity, you have Easter and Christmas. I mean,
yes.
or whatever holidays in between, a mass meditation event that usually, ends or begins with prayer, a form of which is a form of meditation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Christmas season, why does everybody feel great during the Christmas season? I mean, majority, it's like, why can't we keep Christmas in our heart all year long?
That's easy to answer. It's because Coca-Cola teamed up with Norman Rockwell and did some really cool paintings, and Christmas is just great.
That's right.
Conspiracy with the polar bears, right?
And on a personal level, I have always wanted to be useful and to be effective for people out there, to do something that's worthwhile. I had somebody tell me about, and this pops up in my memory a lot. I can't even tell you who it was. The name is recognizable, and I'm blanking on her name. She's a psychic, but more than that. And we were at an event, and she said to me, she said, this is before any of my books came out. I was working toward my first book, but I hadn't gotten a contract yet. And so that's the stage I was in.
Was it Miss Cleo?
What's that?
Sarah Soderlund?
Was it Miss Cleo?
No,
She-
no, yes.
she'd
You
come
are
in from her
thinking that
commercials.
you want to get great, None. No, it wasn't that.
That was Miss Cleo via India.
I can't remember. I've always had trouble with her name. She's one of those people where I go, is it Beverly? Is it Betty? Is it Bonnie? Is it? So there was somebody, psychic, and it's not coming to me. And I see it. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But she said to me, she said, and this is before I experienced, this is even before I met you, Jason. So this has got to be 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And she said, you're going to be somebody who affects a lot of lives. I said, well, what's a lot of lives? 12? That's a lot of people if you stuff them all in my living room. And she said, no. She said, I mean, it's much bigger. You're going to have this wide effect on the world. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. And you take this stuff with a grain of salt. It's a psychic, first of all, saying it. So you don't know what to think.
Right.
And I think, well, what does that mean? So I come back.
If you want to come back for more sessions, we can explore this darkness.
Yes. Sign up here. And but that's what she told me. And I thought, what does that entail? I've thought. And I try to think about it and think, do I manifest that by thinking and trying to actualize it? And I've always been, are my reasons right? Is my motivation pure? Do I want to affect people or do I want to get famous? That was the idea at first as it hit me. And I thought, sure, with fame comes a little bit of money. And if you make money, you're doing good. And maybe that's the good thing, but that's not my purpose. I thought. And so I tried to block that part of it out and just say, if I'm going to focus on this at all, I want to focus on what can I do to better people? But what if my death betters people? Because by my death, then we found all these writings of his and all this art that was never published. And now, you're bettering humanity with it. And I'm speaking hypothetically here. And it's like somebody said, don't ever wish for, what is it? When you're doing these manifestation spells, you don't want to ask for, somebody put it this to me, it might have been Travis Thorpe or somebody else. They said, when you try to focus on what you want to get and where you want to be, he said, don't focus on anything because you might deprive somebody else of something in order for it to come to you. He says, focus on what you can be doing to build and, and so on.
Right.
And so there's
Giving
that thought,
taking.
that spiritual side of it. What is my motivation? When somebody told me that, Duterte comes to mind as their last name. D-E or D-U, capital T-U-R-T-E or T-E-R-T-E.
Sounds like a
Duarte?
Filipino name. Yeah.
What's that?
Sounds
Duarte?
Like
Duarte.
yeah.
Is that her name?
D-U-E.
And it seems to be like the D-U and the T were separate. And I typed just the last name and it doesn't come up. So that just popped in my head. That's her name is like that. Duterte, Duarte. I'm not sure. Somebody, if you know who I'm talking about.
There's a D in there, some sort of U. Obviously
Yeah.
a T. And there's a
D-U-E-T-E-R-T-R-E or something. I don't know.
D-U-T-E-R-T-E is what I thought it was.
I think it's D-U-E.
I got Roddy and Sebastian and Linde, and it's none of those people. She was a doctor. She was Dr. Duarte, I think, was her name as well. I don't even know that I'm pronouncing it right or spelling it right, but that was the person.
Yeah. So
and
I mean, it's
have
all
a lot
about
of credibility.
Yeah, it's all about competing influences.
Yes.
She's trying to influence you. Your own ego tries to influence you. Your desires try to influence you. So it's you and
See you, Sean
ultimately
Strike.
have to realize that you are in control of who and what can influence you.
Yes.
So
there it is. And she influenced me just by saying that.
Yeah.
Because what did it tap into? She wasn't trying to tap my ego for any reason. She had no ulterior motives, but this is what she said to me. And and it was almost out of the blue. I don't think she was even doing a reading for me or anything like that. And then she was one of those first ones, along with Chip Coffey, that were telling me, Scotty, they both said, you've got what it takes to do psychic work. You just you're not practicing. You're not doing what you need to do. Practice. And she was the one that told me And it was not a formal session. We were just sitting in the lobby, and
Right.
she said, right now, she said, focus on me. She said, what do you see? And I said, that's tough. And I immediately got an image in my head. And I went, why am I getting this image? I'm not familiar with this. And I said, I get weird images because you told me focus on you. And what do I see? So I start seeing things. It's power of suggestion. And she said, well, what are you seeing? And I kind of chuckled, and I said, I don't know why, but I see a high back, wing chair, like in a study made out of leather. And I said, I can't remember if I said I was sitting there or she was or nobody was, but that there was a man behind the chair wearing a plaid shirt, an older man, and he had his arm on the chair or his hand on the chair and was encouraging her. It was her. And she said, okay, go on. Tell me what else you see and blah, blah, blah. And as she came, I told her I see the Seattle Space Needle. Why'd that come in? And I don't remember what the connection was there. But when she got to explaining in just a couple of minutes, she said, that's a vision I get of my dad an awful lot. And that's what he looked like. The guy you described, the shirt he was wearing. Seattle played into where he lived or something. I don't know what it was. But all of that's, he's pulling a Biden. He's checking his watch. How long is this going to go on before I can get out of here? Jesus.
No, my smartwatch just went off on me.
Oh. So, it's those kinds of things where you say, okay, did I actually tap into her? Why was I getting imagery that she always gets? And I'd never heard her speak. I didn't even know who she was before that show. Just
See,
that she was one of the
clearly
other
I need
special
to
speakers.
Clearly, I need to go hang out with you and the people you hang out with more, so I can bump into these psychic people. So I can, I'm sold on Chip because at the Oda Saga and the things that he was able to talk about off of Grandpa's dog tag and various things that is okay, there were too many things that were too pointed and too, very much in the vicinity of to be something where it's I just gleaned this by listening in on some conversations at the dinner table next to me.
Yes.
That's but going to mediums or getting palm readings or getting tarot, however anybody wants to say it.
I'm so
highbrow.
Tarot.
I
think I said to the person who sent that to me, she said that. I said, how do you pronounce it? Tarot? And I put TAY dash. So tarot.
Should have held up a purple yam and
yeah.
Tarot?
So yeah.
But it sounds like, at least to me, it's she's asking you to work that mental muscle, work on your virtual abs, on your
and I don't
interdimensional abs, right? You got
interdimensional.
Yes, and I don't really like doing that. And as I told her, and I told Chip,
nobody likes exercise.
I said I really am uncomfortable with that. I said, you know why I do tarot reading? I said it's because that's my positive crutch. I said, I don't have to worry about what I'm thinking about. And if it's right, I just throw it down. And I say, I'm facilitating a message delivered. I'm not the originator of in my head.
Right.
And but I will tell you this, when I do tarot readings, I get an awful lot of imagery about people, sometimes more than others. And it can be overwhelming sometimes, and it can be like nothing. Or if I go if I'm reading cards and I go off on a certain direction, I don't even realize, where that's coming from. But I'll say, well, this, what this can mean? It can be this, and that can have to do with this and this and this and this and this. So watch this and that. And I get more people that'll say that's exactly what my issue was. And I wasn't even speaking to anybody individually when I do these daily reads over on my TikTok. I've got, I don't know how many over there. I skipped some days, but there's a ton of them over there on my TikTok. And I get people that write and go, this is exactly what I needed for today. And I go, well, that's good to hear. But I also keep fairly general messages about psychological topics. If I'm talking about this card says you need to do this and this, and I might pluck up relationship and say in relationship, this means then that you need to pay more attention to this rather than take it for granted, to use a simplistic definition. People go, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And I'm like, well, then the card spoke to you for today. Was it specifically for you? Is there magical power behind that? Or is it just a general message that when 1,000 people listen to you every day, 2 are going to go, oh, that hit my issue. You must be really psychic.
Well, that's like, opening up the newspaper way back when you go to the horoscopes and it's like, you're going to find some sort of something in this vagary we've just printed.
Right? This vagary we've just printed is going to be
a broken watch is right twice a day.
It's all conditioning, and we condition our bodies, our brains, our interdimensional self. We're just all trying to navigate, 50 million things at once.
I tell you what, I have interdimensional abs. Don't pay attention to this.
Dude. Mine.
No, I've got an interdimensional 6-pack.
My abs cross.
So you can do remote viewing and astral projection, right?
I've gone beyond 3-dimensionality.
Yeah, I can remote view that snack I'm going to get at the shop while I'm at work.
Dude, yeah. When you can, how you get tingles when you talk about spirit? When I think about good food, I get the drools. I'm like, oh, dude.
See, yeah, exactly.
I'm picturing that.
Yeah, and sometimes people can actually feel like they can taste it, right? You can anticipate the taste.
Bloody, juicy chunks of meat.
Now you're starting to sound like Mike Tyson when he's talking about this fight coming up with Jake Paul. I just see a bunch of raw meat.
I just see raw meat. So,
anyone else looking forward to watching that? I don't watch fights, but I may watch that one.
He's fighting RuPaul?
No, Jake Paul.
Jake. I thought you said RuPaul.
That would be.
I would watch that fight.
I would watch that fight too.
Don't
yeah,
fight my ear, Michael. Oh.
There would be so much sass countering every right.
Oh my God. That makes me think of the old Jerry Lewis movie that he was a boxer, or he wasn't a boxer. It was
like The Contender or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious. Jerry Lewis antics. Mm-hmm. And they got him doing is just look up on YouTube Jerry Lewis boxing, and you're gonna see that. And he talks to his trainer is talking to him, and they got our newspaper reporter. What are you gonna do, champ? Well, I'm gonna knock him out in the third round. He's talking like that, Jerry Lewis. Third round. I've been hitting the head too much. I got like it's like a 1,000 times, and so he's got his dancing steps. He absolutely comic, antic genius. Yeah, that was pretty much it. So look it up, folks, on YouTube if you're interested.
Oh God,
so, Jerry Lewis,
yeah.
March of Dimes.
Yeah.
Did you guys see
a muscular dystrophy?
Yeah.
Or is that March of Dimes?
That was March of Dimes, yeah.
Shows you what I know.
Pretty sure. Yep. Remember seeing all the big water cooler jugs at the grocery stores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Sarah?
No, I was saying that, did you guys see, this was totally random, but did you guys see that Morgan Spurlock died?
No.
2 days ago. He was the guy who did that documentary that Supersized Me, where he ate like McDonald's for.
Yeah, died of 3
stomach cancer or something.
I don't know the details, but
speaking of,
I don't think
2 days ago. So
I don't think they're related, though. I think they're just using that as a
quick example to latch onto.
Yeah.
By the way, since we're already overtime, I got to give you a movie recommendation.
Okay.
My daughter said, "Did you see this is coming out? This sounds really good." And they do that with me all the time. And it was
Beetlejuice 2?
Kevin Costner's new movie.
Oh yeah,
Horizon: An American Saga.
There's like 4 movies in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
He showed it at Cannes for the first time last week. The film
10-minute standing ovation.
I heard an 11-minute
11 minutes?
ovation.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
and it was a 3-hour plus movie. But what he did, he said his concept for this goes all the way back to 1988. And of course, he did Dances with Wolves. I saw him in an interview, and he said, after you get all that acclaim for doing a movie like Dances with Wolves, he says, you think the world's my oyster. I can do anything I want. And I tried to propose this. And he says, everybody rejected it. Nobody would do it. And he said, I put it on my back burner. I kept developing. He says, finally, I said, he's now 69. So he's got 6 years on me. But he was saying, I finally said, I got to do this. And he mortgaged everything he has.
Yep.
Because nobody would support it. And because it was 4 movies. And you don't make 4 movies at once.
Right.
He's in the middle of making the third, and the first one premieres next month, June 28th. And then in August, the second one premieres in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And then he's working on the third right now and the fourth, and it's a Western.
Right.
And I looked at the trailer, and I don't know about you guys. I don't know why I get the emotional reactions I get. I watched the trailer, and it was the combination of the drama in the trailer and the music. Music is a big stirrer of emotional response for me.
Yeah.
And I'm watching that. I'm getting tears in my eyes watching that. I thought, why am I crying about this? This is really, it was very moving. And it looks like parts of it look like your typical Western. Parts of it look like it's a little deeper.
Yeah.
And apparently when you hear he got 11-minute standing ovation for a Western, that tells you something about its content.
Yeah.
And
or maybe we're going to see the genre of the Western make a resurgence.
Just might.
Well,
they said that one of the first movies of the resurgence of the Western was when they did Silverado. With Kevin Kline, and that was the big risk. I remember them all.
Kevin Kline, Kevin Costner.
Yep. Costner was in it. It was one of his.
Yeah, he played Jake.
Movies. He played the kid that was in jail.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah. Aren't you gonna break me out? And
all I did was kiss a girl.
Yep. And he's what's he doing as he's talking to his brother through the bars? He's like monkey bars. He's lifting himself up and moving around, and he's talking. All I did was kiss a girl, and that's all you did. That's the only reason you're in here. Well, there was, and so on.
Well, and he drew on me, but it was fair.
It was fair. And so
Brian Dennehy was the main bad guy.
Brian Dennehy was great. He was the
Cobb,
or the owner of the town kind of guy.
Yeah, Cobb.
Kevin Kline with his falling apart pistol.
Right, as he's getting charged down by the guy on his horse, on Kevin Kline's horse.
Yeah. And the military stops. They're kind of like the policing. He goes, "This is my horse," and that was the man who stole him. And the horse is right next to Kline. And it starts licking his face. He goes, "There, see, it's my horse." And the army captain goes, "I had a whore do that to me once, and it didn't mean she was my wife."
Right, yeah. And then
but that was one of the movies hailed as the comeback of the Western.
Yeah. Danny Glover.
Danny Glover was in that.
And then you had He's very, very talks like this.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, yes.
Just because you can't doesn't mean you should.
Right.
So he was in that.
Yeah, there were a bunch of people in that one. God, I'm trying to think of the name of the guy that played Emmett, the older brother, kind of the main character. God, why can't I think of his name? Normally on any other given day, I'd just be like, "Oh yeah, hey, that's so and so."
You got Scott Glenn.
Scott Glenn.
Yep.
Scott Glenn. Yep.
Scott Glenn was in that. Kevin Kline, Costner, Danny Glover, Mark
John
Kasdan
Cleese was in it.
was Doc Skinner. Who?
John Cleese.
That's right. Today, my jurisdiction
and
yeah. Yes. He gets a bullet through his hat.
Right.
He's the stuffy sheriff, British. Linda Hunt was in that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That was a great movie.
Definitely was. That was a favorite for me and my dad to watch all the time. We had that on Betamax and VHS. Who?
David Carradine was in Silverado. What did he play? Who did he play in Silverado?
David Carradine was in it.
Yeah. If I'm picturing him right. No, he wasn't.
Nah. I don't think he was. Now, he was, I'm pretty sure it was Keith Carradine was in The Cowboys.
And
Revenge of the Nerds.
Call it? The something riders. The what? The dust. They all wore the duster jackets or coats. That was
Long Riders.
The Long Riders.
Yeah.
So all of those movies were coming out at a time where they were reviving the Western.
Yeah.
And so now maybe Costner's movie will do the same. You get a blockbuster movie that's a Western, what's going to happen in Hollywood?
You're going to have a whole bunch of stuff.
Of Westerns.
Right. That's exactly.
We're overdue for a new epic, I think.
Yes.
I mean,
and they are calling this epic. I saw a thing in Costner's interview. He was talking about his son is in this movie.
Mm.
And he said, it's not a tiny part, but it's a small part.
Right.
And he says, my kids have always wanted to try to do it. They always want to see what I'm doing. He says, I take and I bring them to my location for the shooting. And I'd get up every morning, my kids were there and they go do their things. And they were there at the premiere. And he says, my son said he wanted to be in this. He says, he's in it. And he says, watch for it. He says, it's a very pivotal, how did he put it? A moving, pivotal, unexpectedly pivotal scene in the movie that sets the viewer on a very different path.
Oh, interesting.
So
Kevin Costner's kid gets gunned down.
Probably.
It's one of those things where
too soon.
I want to be in a movie with you, Dad. It's Brett. All right, I'll put you in my movie. No.
What was the one I think of? The death of a son in a movie. It wasn't his son, but Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot. If you remember that, he's against fighting the English. The character is, and he's got a plantation, farm plantation, and he's got like 5 kids, and no wife. The wife has died, and he's raising his kids, and he's got money. You can tell, and but they give quarter to American rebels that are wounded.
Oh,
and he also gives quarter to British soldiers that are wounded.
Right,
he's got them all. They're all pulled up. They're all over his yard, all over his porch, both British and colonial soldiers.
Yeah,
and they're treating them all and giving them water and so on. And the doc is looking at it, and the big bad, what do they call the guys in green? The dragoons.
The dragoons.
The head of the dragoons was, what actor is that? He was in
Lucius Malfoy or whoever.
Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter. He was in.
What's his name?
I can't think of his name. But he's the dragoon, and he
plays
orders
such a
all
good
the
bad
colonial
guy.
soldiers shot.
Yeah,
because they're all traitors, and they shoot them all, and of course Mel Gibson and his family, they're elbows deep in blood because they're helping people and they're sweaty and
Jason Isaacs.
Jason Isaacs, yep.
And he tries to make a plea for them, and they killed him. But then what is his young son, who's like 14?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks it's a travesty, and he tells his dad, "You got to stop this." And Gibson is saying to his son, "Stop, son, stop. You will be quiet and you will step back behind me." And he's telling him to stop. And his son just blurts out and starts running at the leading officer, who turns his pistol on him and shoots him.
Yeah.
And he dies right there on the scene in Mel Gibson's arms. And the dragoon, he says, "Isaacs," he says, "his stupid boy," and then they take prisoners and they ride off.
Mm-hmm.
And they take, one of his own son, his older son, who's a colonial.
Yeah.
They take him prisoner. And that's when everything snaps. And Gibson pursues him, and his own son has just died. He takes his two younger sons that are younger than 14, puts
aim
a
small, miss
musket.
small.
Yep, aim small, miss small. Puts a musket in their hands and says, "Come with me." And
then they find out why Dad kept all that shit in the footlocker and never
that's
took it out.
right. Because what's the opening of that movie? You see the camera is panning slowly across the interior of this trunk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the old red coat uniform and an old tomahawk.
Yeah.
My dad patterned the one he did for me, which got broken, and it was sitting right there. I don't know where it is now. I set it somewhere else, but you saw the head of that tomahawk.
Mm-hmm.
It was right here. I think my son must have picked it up to look at it, and it's not where I thought it was, but. He had a tomahawk and different accoutrements. You hear the voiceover from very late in the movie. He says, what does he say? You get that bleak, dark music that comes across as the camera's panning on this. And it says something about my sins have come to revisit me.
Yeah.
And
I fear my sins have come to revisit me. Yeah.
Yes. And then it goes into the movie. That's the opening, and he fought in the French and Indian War.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be a really phenomenal movie. If you need to see the trailer, if you go over to my Facebook page, I posted the trailer over there. You can take a look at it and see what you think.
When it's supposed to be released in theaters?
The 28th of June.
Okay.
So about a month from now.
Mm-hmm.
So
now the real question comes in: do I go see it in the theater and deal with all that, or do I just pay the $20 and watch it at home on my 65-inch TV?
We can all do that. We can pay $20 or $29 to rent it at home and watch it on TV. If you got
which means I can then sit there and watch it in my underwear. Don't have to worry about people.
With my hand in my underwear and the other hand in my popcorn.
Yeah.
That's how guys eat popcorn and watch movies. They sit back and it's like, I think I'll. So, but this is why I like going to the theater. I love the huge picture, the big sound. I love the experience of movie going.
Well, that's why I have a small living room and a 65-inch TV. It feels like I'm.
Well, like I say, we just got our 75-inch TV.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
So we got it.
I almost got one. Then I was thinking my living room's too small. I'm just gonna.
Our 75-inch. I was looking at the 86-inch because we got that one wall in the living room that's between the front entryway and the downstairs to come down here.
This is our entertainment wall.
There's the hallway on the other side, and it's big. And Randy said 86 is too big. I go, no, nay, au contraire. 86 will go from, I said, almost light switch over here to almost light switch over here on the wall.
You both are going to ruin your eyes.
Oh, no.
Hey,
no,
I'm like 10 feet back from the screen.
Yeah. Well, that's what our living room is. We've got this big, wide open expanse of wood floor, and I've kept that deliberately open. I don't want to fill that with junk. And our sectionals are all on the back wall with bookshelves behind them, bookshelves on the side. So there's nothing in between. And we can put a throw rug down, but we like the look of the wood floor, and the kid does her tumbling stuff on there. And but so we're sitting 12, 13 feet back from the TV, and you get this big picture and the big sound. It's fantastic. So I love it. But we got only a 75-inch.
It's nice to have the immersive theatrical experience.
It is. And I think if you have a big TV like that in your little room, then you're going to get that theatrical experience. Just turn out the lights and, and pour soda pop the day before. So pour sugary soda pop all over your floor. So when you're sitting there watching the movie, your shoes stick to it, and you hear this sound and under your feet. It's like, oh my God, they didn't.
Well, like anymore, it's not worth going to it unless we've gotten spoiled now that they have like the fancy seats, that recline and heat up and all of that.
When we go to, you've got those where you go, oh wow, look at this.
Have you seen those ones where it's like a bed, like an actual like 2-person bed?
Yes.
Wow. I wonder how many problems they have in the theater with that.
Yeah, really.
Oh.
Used to be, petting was the old term. Don't go to the movie theater and pet.
Right. Yeah.
Really?
No, it's okay. We won't pet.
Yeah.
The seats lie back into a big bed.
But yeah, we get those. It's kind of fun. I don't like to be fully reclined, but I don't mind putting my feet up every now and then.
Right.
That's kind of nice for that. So
I hate it when they have like cup holders on the top of the armrest, but then you can swing back the armrest. So if you're sitting next to somebody, you can hold hands or lean into each other. But there's no cup rest or there's no cup holder underneath that. It's like, man, I gotta sit this over here, and it's got to be by this weird guy.
Yeah. So those are nice. If you can get there and get those, and they've got the whole theater is those seats. We go to the big Cineplex.
Yeah.
So we
watch it in IMAX.
The kids. Oh, that'd be nice.
Right.
I like to take the kids at times when we do the whole family. We got to do, if we're going to do the whole family, you got to do matinee where it doesn't cost you as much.
Right.
And we're still paying $5 a ticket, something like that for matinee at the huge Cineplex.
That's awesome.
Yes, this is nice.
I remember we had a movie theater. So we had in Huntsville, as a kid, we had Hollywood 16, I think it was. It had 16 screens. It was, oh man. But then you had the other older theater, like on a little further down towards town, and it $4 matinees. It's
they always have the old marquee out front that trapezoidal shape, with the the movie and the little lights going around it.
Or you got to put the letters up.
And we had one that was just 2 blocks from our old house when Rainey and I were first together, and we take my older kids. Were all we had at the time. We go down there all the time. It was a $1 show, 99-cent shows. And you buy your candy and your popcorn. That's where they made a lot of their money. And they show the 99-cent movies. And they were the movies that were just off the huge theatrical release.
Right. Well, and like movie theaters really don't make a lot of money on tickets.
Not on the movie. Yeah. Not on the tickets.
They pay $18 for a bucket of popcorn.
Exactly. $18. Yeah. For a bucket of popcorn.
That's why if you were a young lad, you and your girlfriend go to see a movie, you make sure she brings the big purse so you can hide all the goodies in it.
Purse.
And if you're a gal,
Rainey does. Rainey
bring the big purse.
Rainey takes a big purse and she stuffs it full of. We buy popcorn, but she'll bring sometimes drinks, cans and bottles of drinks in the bottom of her cooler lined. Yep, that's about it. You look around, and you go. Movie theater, and but we just buy popcorn.
See how many heads turn when you crack open a soda.
My thing, you know what I like to do at the movie theaters? I like to get the buttered popcorn, and I like to get milk duds. I take milk duds and I dump them into the popcorn, and then shake it all up. So it's like finding the magical chocolate treat as you're eating through your big bucket of popcorn.
Right. Well, here's the really good one.
Yeah.
Here's the really good one. Milk duds are great and all, right? I'll never complain about milk duds.
Yeah.
Reese's Pieces.
Oh, dude, yeah. It's my
You
kids.
throw Reese's Pieces in your popcorn, man. Oh man.
Yep. And they don't melt in, but they get softer. That's what I liked about the milk duds. You throw it softer, you grab it and it's softer. You're not breaking your jaw eating them. And
the theater back in Grand Forks, well, it's technically is East Grand Forks, because the one in the Grand Forks side closed down and got bought out, and they were doing massive renovations to it. But they even had things set up like a, different, like a whole stand of things you could put on your popcorn. Yes. And they'd usually have like several cans of kettle corn seasoning. So they'd just be like, yeah, I need you to give me like basically a lake of butter at the bottom of this.
Lake of butter.
And then you go over there and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to be here a while. Hope you got a Snickers.
Yeah, there's another salt shaker down there.
Mix it all up.
Yes.
Sweet buttery kettle corn.
Morgan Snow says we still have
proper kettle corn, not the seasoning that you
put right.
It has to be, in the kettle.
Real kettle corn is always better, but it
Morgan
works.
Snow says we still have a drive-in movie theater. The last drive-in we went to, we used to go to drive-ins all the time.
Yeah.
I remember being a little kid when Bonnie and Clyde came out with Warren Beatty. And Faye Dunaway.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in the first 5 minutes of the movie, I think it is, you got Faye Dunaway naked at the upstairs bedroom window talking down. What are you doing down there?
12 feet tall of naked Faye Dunaway.
But she's got her vital bits of her bare breasts, or she's leaning on the windowsill and they're covered by the window pane, and you see.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember being like 8 or 9 years old and going, oh, that's a naked woman. That's what they look like. She doesn't look like my mom.
And a core memory was unlocked on that. It was created on that day. And now we understand where Scotty has this whole fixation.
That's where it comes from.
Therapy session. Yeah.
Faye Dunaway, thank you very much. Everything I owe to Faye Dunaway. But drive-in movies, the last one I ever saw, we went to when we saw the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, God.
At a drive-in theater. And it was great because the way this place was set up, you could open up your hatchback. So you back in and you take the little microphone thing and put it in, and you have the hatchback open. You got pillows and blankets, and we're all watching the movie. But it got too buggy. We didn't anticipate that. It got so buggy we had to bug out. But
when I had my 67 split window VW bus, so
nice.
The side doors opened like this. They didn't slide back. And we had a drive-in theater that had, I think, 3 screens between Daleville, Alabama / Fort Rucker and Dothan, right? And, initially we'd roll out there and we'd have, the speakers and the radio and stuff like that. And we'd park it sideways and swing open those doors. And then eventually somebody came by. We're like, we got there and it was a little more crowded than usual. And you can't park that way. You're taking up too many spaces. And it's like, dude, there's blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That was always the greatest thing to do was pop open the hatchback or whatever. We had one up on the Minnesota side when I was up at Grand Forks. And on a couple of occasions, I drive Herbie out there just to make it old school. And that always got a good kick out of folks. And the people who owned the drive-in actually had like a 72 Super Beetle parked out by their sign that was like very roughly done up like Herbie.
Yeah.
So when I first time I rolled up in there in my Herbie, they're like, "Oh man, can we get a picture of your car and ours?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, dude. I'll meet you down there." And like, turn around out of line, drive, park some kind of cool way, and then get a picture, and then come back in line. They just wave me through because I'd already paid.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah. So, drive-in theaters are great. We need more of them.
It's been a long time.
They actually did pretty good during COVID because they stayed open.
Yeah, because you're not in contact with people.
Right. You're in your own car. You can,
in your own bubble. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And when Herbie Fully Loaded, the last Herbie movie that Disney made, came out, they showed it on that one that was there between Daleville and Dothan. And the whole Volkswagen Club got together,
Nice.
and we drove out there to watch it. So like it was mostly us that was there.
That's cool. Well, that was like when we did, and I've told this story before, but when The Patriot came out with Mel Gibson, 95, that came out, by the way.
Y'all rode out there on
Years
horses
ago.
and
Can you believe
wagons?
it?
No.
What's that?
Y'all rode out there to watch it on horses and wagons?
No. It was French and Indian War was what he fought in, then the American Revolution. So we went out to the Mall of America.
Oh,
To
yeah.
their big theater, and we proposed coming in as the Highland Regiment, the British redcoats with the kilts and the muskets, and we could actually carry. This was 30 years ago now. We could carry our muskets in, wore our swords, and we set up a display with a little bell of arms tent there, and we had all our flags there and a computer going with stuff showing what we did. But we had 25 guys all in uniform, and we're wandering around the lobby talking about, God save George the King, eh? And, and they're like, oh, that's, who's George the King? And we had all kinds of conversations with people, and it was a lot of fun. And before each showing of the evening, the 7 o'clock, the 9 o'clock, and they were staggered theaters, we got to go down and do a little presentation in front. And what we did, they brought up the house lights, and we'd march down the main aisle
Freak
in
everybody
formation, and our captain, and we'd line up across the front of the stage. And our captain came out with a parchment, and he's reading. He took things from the Stamp Act, and he was telling everybody, after tonight's performances, you will have to each billet 2 soldiers in your home. You must feed them. You must give them, this and that, and bedding and so on. And there will be no recompense or something. And everybody starts booing. And he looks out from the scroll and he goes, 6 bayonets. And then everybody is like in formation. We fixed our bayonets. And so then we got the fun-loving boos and cheers as we marched out, and we had our drummer, and we march out of there. And so we did that at the beginning of each show for about 5 minutes, and then our payment was we got to sit in the midnight show and watch it, and we got all the free treats we wanted. So we loaded up with popcorn. Here we are. We're in our British redcoats, and it's warm. So we take off the British red. Yeah, we're eating popcorn and milk duds and drinking Coke. And there was the one scene, if you remember this scene. Now, remember, we were French and Indian War was what we did, which was the British fighting against the French. And we portrayed the Highland Scots fighting for the British against the French in North America.
Yeah.
And so there was the scene where obviously the French guy that was that they brought in, he knew the reputation of Gibson's main character from 17 years earlier during the French and Indian War, knew of his reputation. And so Mel Gibson tries to make nice, and they're mounting their horses afterwards, and he says something to him, and the Frenchman just glares at him and turns in his horse and rides off. And Gibson turns and he goes, French. And all our guys started hooting and hollering. One of the funniest lines, French. So, but that was a good time. So, with that movie at the Mall of America. So that was that. Talking about movies.
Yep.
And it's now 11:46. 11:48. I've got.
Oh, okay.
No, 46. It was my glut. 46 and 49 seconds, 50, 51. So we're going to bug out of here. So, Sarah, you got any famous last words for us for tonight?
Bye.
Bye. All right. You have a nice night. Good to have you here, Sarah.
Later, Sarah.
All right, Jason, good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Immortal words of Sarah. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody else, thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. We will be back on Sunday morning even though it's a holiday weekend, unless something weird comes up and I'm not here. We'll be back Sunday morning. And planning on Monday night at the end of Memorial Day. We'll see how that all goes. So all of you, I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to wish you the best weekend of all, and that you enjoy yourself this weekend. Kick in summer on a grand scale. So all of you, live long and prosper.